Greetings, friends, and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Fire and Ice, the official podcast of your Coachella Valley Firebirds of the American Hockey League. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California, a mere Alish Stezka double pad slide away from the Birds' home ice of Acrisure Arena. I'm your host, Judd Spicer, along with this bi-monthly endeavor. Also, again, have the privilege and pleasure of serving as your Firebirds insider for this sophomore season of Birds hockey. Those Firebirds insider articles can be found online at cvfirebirds.com. And of course, that's your place for all things Firebirds, including, but certainly not limited to, team, roster, schedule, staff, merchandise, ticketing information. I might also recommend and suggest downloading that CV Firebirds app. Great way to get tickets for all your Birds home games and really everything happening down the way at Acrisure Arena. Speaking of the Firebirds Insider, the most recent article on Birds video coach Eric Edelens. Happy to say that one was picked up by the American Hockey League. Front page of AHL.com. Per the presenting sponsor of this endeavor, Desert Willow Golf Resort, home to the Mountain View and Firecliff courses respectively. Now full strength, all 36 holes. The overseed season has come and gone. Mountain View just got over the overseed, or got out of the overseed season right after the Christmas holiday. Also home to the excellent and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy, daily clinics, 3-day signature golf schools. Great way to improve your swing while you're here in the desert for what is now the peak season. As for those tee times for the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, you can make those online at desertwillow.com. All right, dudes, joining me on this episode, got a great one going between the pipes with our guy Colin Zulianello. He is the goaltending coach for the CV Firebirds. He's had a lot of work this year. He's had 4 different guys in net. Look forward to chatting with Colin about the year to date, and we'll probably also dip into a former Firebird. We'll just kind of leave it at that. I think we all know of whom we speak. Former Firebird who's making a fine name for himself now on the national stage. Before we get to that conversation, however, let's take a moment and dip into this episode's Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. Things going well of late for your Firebirds friends. Winners of 3 of the last 4, now 17, 10, and 2, places them 5th in the Pacific Division, although just a mere win out of 3rd place, and a fine opportunity to jump into 3rd place for what lies ahead in days to come. As far as days behind, the Birds got 2024 off to an excellent start, grabbing back-to-back wins at Calgary against division-leading Calgary. That New Year's Day game featured a 6-1 victory for the Birds against the Wolf. Yeah, the Wolf was in net, scored 6 goals, against reigning league MVP and 2-time defending goalie of the year, Dustin Wolf. Followed that up the following day, earlier this week on Tuesday, with a 3-1 win against Calgary. Birds now come back home. That aforementioned opportunity to fly further up the Pac Division standings, that's coming right away with the double dip against Abbotsford. They are currently in 3rd. First of those 2 games takes place this Saturday, January 6th. It's a 6 p.m. puck drop at home at Acrisure Arena. Going to turn it right around with Sunday afternoon game. Puck drop at 2 p.m. again versus Abbotsford. Birds then get a couple of days off before hitting the road, sticking in Southern California for the first of these away games. This is next Wednesday, January 10th at San Diego. Yeah, San Diego doesn't have a great record, certainly not a team to be overlooked. Then they get a day off, traveling to Colorado. Another back-to-back taking place for the Birds. That is Friday, January 12th, 6:05, very specific puck drop time. Not 6 o'clock, 6:05 at Colorado. on Friday the 12th, and then right again on Saturday, January 13th, 6:05. Very specific. That's at Colorado. Get a day off, and then the Birds will come back home for 3 straight games, a couple against Henderson, and then again against Calgary. Those games on the 15th, 17th, and 19th, respectively. We mentioned in the last episode, the closing episode of 2023, it's a busy stretch. It's a critical stretch after playing 25 games in the first 2.5 months of the season. They're really now in the crux. They've entered the meat of this sophomore campaign of Birds hockey, now currently in this stretch. I think we've got 15 games in the next 29 days. Going to say a lot about the Pacific Division standings and the Birds playoff standing once we get through this stretch and enter that first week of February. But for now, in the interim, January into the onset of next month, yeah, dudes, lot of Birds games to be played. As far as those playing those games, let's take a look briefly at the leading scorers to date for your CV Firebirds. The captain, Max McCormick, he is tied for the team lead with 24 points, tied with Cameron Hughes. That comes by virtue of a team-leading tied 11 goals, coupled with 13 assists. Cameron Hughes also those 24 points, 7 goals with a team-leading tied 17 assists. As far as the gentleman with whom Cam Hughes is tied for that assist lead, that'd be Cole Lind right behind those two fellows with 23 points thus far in the season, 6 goals and 17 assists. Young Logan Morrison continuing to avail himself quite well in his inaugural AHL season, 21 points, that's 7 goals and 14 assists. And Shane Wright, not far behind with 18 total points thus far on the year. He is tied with Max McCormick with a team-high 11 goals, coupling that with 7 assists. Mentioned the amount of goalies that the Firebirds have had by virtue of injury and the Chutes and Ladders call-ups going back and forth this year. We've had 4 guys in goal. Ales Stejska, he looks to be the guy right now, playing very well of late, seeing continued improvement. He is now 5-3-1 between the pipes on the season with a 3.43 goals against average. All right, friends, all that offered, all that prefaced in this episode of Fire and Ice. Let's get to a chat with our guy, Colin Zulianello. They call him Zuli. He is the goaltending coach for your Coachella Valley Firebirds. All right, Firebirds flock. My guest on this episode of the Fire and Ice podcast is a native of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Applied his goalie trade for 4 years in college at Colorado College, segued that to 4 more years between the pipes in professional hockey between the ECHL and the AHL. After that, a fascinating career mix of goaltending, coaching, and teaching. For the latter, he does have his master's in education. He is the goaltending coach for our CV Firebirds and has been from the get. They call him Zuli because everyone in hockey needs a nickname. That's what they call him at Acrisure Arena. We welcome Colin Zulianello to the Fire and Ice podcast. Hello, Zuli.
Hey, Judd. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time, man. I'd wish you a happy new year since this is the first show of 2024. But I think Larry David said something about wishing people a happy new year after January 3rd. Something about that was annoying. So
Yeah,
nonetheless,
cut off, right?
I'll still wish you a happy new year.
Okay, so happy new year to you too. We'll break that rule.
I kind of made a personal rule for myself, Colin, that I'm gonna break right here from the get, is that I would stop talking about the Coachella Valley Firebirds' recent past and focus more on the present and the future. But I'd be bearing the lead, my man, if I didn't start by talking about a past player. And we're going to go back earlier this week to New Year's Day and the Winter Classic, while the Firebirds were kicking the crap out of the Calgary Wranglers and 2-time AHL Goal of the Year and reigning MVP Dustin Wolf, winning that game 6-1. Our old friend Joey DeCord was busy shutting out a very good Vegas team and having nearly 50,000 people chant his name in unison. I don't know, Zuli, if you had opportunity after the fact to go back and watch Joey's performance in the Winter Classic. Have you watched that?
Yeah, we actually our game got done and we watched the last about 6.5 minutes in the coaches' room there in Calgary, and we're able to hear the Joey chants and watch him make one more really big save on Jack Eichel on an East-West play, and got to kind of from afar share in that moment with former Firebird and obviously someone that I'm very close with and had the obviously the fortune of working with last season. So a really cool moment for him, a really cool moment for us, obviously. And then I did go back and watch the clips from the game, and just real happy for Joey making the most of his opportunity there and playing the way he's playing. He's had to put together a really nice run of games here, and I'm sure that it'll continue.
Yeah, he absolutely has. I mean, if there's one word, Colin, that comes to mind, pardon me, when watching Joey Decord earn an MVP honor, an accolade, and a shutout on that national televised stage. If there's one word that comes to mind for you, given all you guys did together last year, what might that word be?
I think it would be gratifying, and I think not necessarily for for any other reason than to see like how hard he's worked at his own game. Obviously, he spent a lot of time, with all of our coaches here last year, with our strength coach Mike Donahue. They put in countless hours in the gym, the time on ice, obviously with not only me but with also Stu and Jess and Dan, and then Coach Eric. Lenz has a part in all that with the video work that he helps put together. And so I think like for all of us, it's sort of gratifying, and he's super deserving. If I could think of another, so gratifying for us because really cool to see all that work that he's put in and all the hands that were on deck to kind of to help him, but you can't help those that don't want to be helped, and he obviously he obviously works tirelessly at his game both on the ice and off the ice, and with video he's a student of the game. And so I think what's been going on lately is a culmination of Joey's willingness and his preparation and his work ethic, and it's really cool to see him get rewarded.
Could spend the entirety of the episode talking about what Joey Decord has done over the course of the last couple of weeks, but I'll just leave it at this, man. We talked about the Winter Classic accolade rather in performance. Um, Last night in the Kraken's win, the Kraken have been red hot. I think they have points in 10 straight, including 6 straight wins. He's now set a franchise
Yeah.
record for the longest shutout streak, about 158 minutes and change. He is currently fifth in the National Hockey League in goals against. He's about a goal away from being third in that metric, by the way. And he is fourth in the National Hockey League in save percentage at .922. Dude, we are just 6 months away from the Joey chance at 10,000 seat Acrisure Arena. And again, just a few days now removed from nearly 50,000 people on a national stage watching what this guy can do. Does it in any way surprise you the success that he's having right now?
No, it doesn't. Just in a sense, there's a couple things I think for goalies. It's sort of typically a lot of goalies mature a little bit later. I've spoken to goaltenders, that we've had in this system, even just kind of telling them like, hey, like sometimes you just got to hang around and, keep working on your game, keep being a good teammate, keep doing the things away from the rink that you need to do to keep yourself ready. And you can find yourself in an NHL game pretty quick. And which Joey's opportunities, the frequency of them are coming, with Groovy being out, and but the thing about Joey is his preparedness is what's enabled him to seize the opportunity. And I watched. I'm not surprised because I watched what he did day in and day out here last year. Like I've touched upon already, just the level of preparation, the work ethic, the details of his game, the tons of hours he puts in with just the video work and in the gym and on the ice, and the questions he asks, and just he just wants to get better all the time. And so I'm not surprised at all to see that what he's been doing. I think his game, was especially in the second half of last year, took a big step. And it was just a matter of time, for him to get that opportunity, and then really awesome to watch him seizing that opportunity. But I
Speaking of
think
some,
that,
go ahead.
No, yeah, that's that's pretty much it on Joey. Like he's making the most of it, and it's been really awesome to watch him. And obviously, we're proud of him here, and just hoping that he can keep this thing rolling.
Is there something specific you see him doing technique wise that makes you especially proud? Something that you guys may have put a lot of hours in last year that you now see him really doing well at the NHL level?
Yeah, like Joey's game was always very good, and he's a student of the game, and I think there's tweaking and fine tuning of many different details, but like his game was never far off. Sometimes it's a matter of getting the opportunity, and obviously there's things that he does better than most with regards to his puck play that a lot of people have obviously talked about, and his ability to read and process the game is very high. It's elite, and so I think there was always little fine tuning, bits here and there. Not one specific thing jumps out because a lot of his game was really good already, and it was just a matter of some small tweaks and some small adjustments, and then obviously now watching it kind of come to fruition in the biggest stage, and it's been really cool.
Speaking with somebody in the Firebirds organization, Colin, earlier today, and this individual used a couple words that came to mind when I personally was watching Joey Decord in the Winter Classic, and the two words that really jump out to me are pride, and you used that one because of how much we enjoyed watching him play, how much we saw him play, how much we enjoyed his truly infectious personality that rippled throughout the team and the organization. Another word that this individual used was ownership. We took a certain ownership in enjoying being a part of his process to what is now he's on the verge of national stardom after that Winter Classic game. And to me, after having a couple days to think about it, I mean, this is the thesis, Colin, of what the American Hockey League and the Firebirds can do. One day you're on the Burger Iceplex where I go and skate doing a Firebirds practice, and 6 months later, man, the world can know your name. I mean, to me, this is what the American Hockey League can potentially be all about. Does that speak to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw obviously with Ty Karche and his opportunity last year and making the most of it, and then finding himself a roster spot or earning himself a roster spot, we'll say, with the Kraken this year, and then obviously what Joey's doing, and Riker Evans has spent some time there, another obviously good young player, and so this is the essence of the league. I mean, it is a development league. Our job is obviously we all want to win championships, and that's obviously such a huge part of it, and it's not lost on any of us. And that being said, there's also an equally important side of our job, which is to develop players and to provide them the opportunity to mature. And if they get the call, they're ready to be interjected into Seattle's lineup and to do great things. And we've seen that from both Ty and Joey, and Riker had some success early on when as soon as he got called up as well. And they're and like Lindy and Potsy and all these guys go up, and they a whack of our guys, Devon Shore, that have gone up and performed well, and that's in essence a big part of our job is to ensure that that's the case. And so Joey obviously for this organization is a feel good story in the sense that we saw this guy take a huge step in his game last year, and be fantastic for us down the stretch, and then now earning an opportunity with Seattle and watching him do much of the same, only at the next level. It just shows our players that they're not far away, that they are one opportunity and one break away from having the potential to showcase what they can do and to make the most of it. And I think that's a really important part of this team and then obviously this league.
Friends, you're tuning into the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resorts, the official podcast of your CV Firebirds of the American Hockey League. My guest is CV goaltending coach Colin Zulianello. Colin, in recent post-game pressers, started to ask Dan Bylsma a little bit more about, I think the word that comes to mind most is identity. Granted, referenced the 6-1 game that you guys won on New Year's Day over a division leading Calgary, but we have not seen, like we did last year, a lot of 6-1 wins or 5-1 wins that we got used to, all these goals. This is a little different team as we now get to game number 30 and near the midpole of this sophomore season of Firebirds hockey. It's a different identity that is taking shape. I think that we can all see it. We're all getting used to it. Winning games this year might be more about 3-1 or 3-2 than winning 6-0 or winning 5-1. What is the identity that you see taking shape with the Birds as we get deeper into the second season?
Yeah, I think yeah. I mean, no two teams are alike. No two seasons will be alike, and that's a hard thing as a fan, and it's also a hard thing as a coach. Sometimes when you have a lot of similar pieces in place, and the idea there is, can you replicate what you've done the year before, and so on. But it's never really the case, right? So you have a new group in the sense that this team has not been assembled before. So yeah, we have some of this, returning players. There's been some changes, and so yeah, we as a group, need to form our own new identity. We're not the Firebirds of 22-23 or the Firebirds of 23-24. And so I think that's sometimes hard, and it also takes time. And I think that earlier in the year we were still creating a lot of offensive chances. Pucks just weren't going in. I think that it's been similar. The last bunch of games we found that a little bit more. I think we've had a little bit more of a blue collar approach in the sense that we're gonna put pucks into hard areas for the goaltenders, the opposing goaltenders to contend. We're gonna have guys going to the net where we don't always need to make the pretty play. We can be a little bit more blue collar with our approach, and I think that that typically makes it challenging on the goaltender. We've done a good job of working hard to get inside and to make it hard for the opposing goaltenders to see pucks. We did a really good job of it in Calgary. And it's not that we weren't getting chances before, Judd. We were,
Right.
and pucks just weren't going in. I think there's some statistics that would tell us that we were top of the league in expected goals. So that to say that we're no longer offensive would be really misleading. It's just a matter of pucks going in, and then us just elevating our work and our habits to make sure that we're doing all we can do to make it challenging for the opposing goaltender. And I look at it a little bit more that way, obviously, given my role. Systems and structure wise, there's the team has been playing well, so it's not like we're doing things way differently than last year. That's not the case. I think in games where we've scored some goals, we've likely just executed slightly better. And our focus, obviously has to be to like how we defend and what do we do to keep pucks out of our net. And so we've done a decent job of it. We can improve in that area, and we can also improve at generating offense as well. The thing is as a coach, you're never really satisfied, right? So it's hard. Like even when you're first in the league and expected goals, and we've got one of the lowest goals against in our division and in the league, and you're still not satisfied. You still know that there's nights where there was goals we could have stopped and goals we should have scored. And I think that's kind of just the nature of coaching and but yeah, you're right to say that the team is different. It's not the same. But we have a great team, and I think we're finding our team identity, and I think it's in the locker room. We have a good feeling. The culture is there, the identity is there, and now it's just a matter of driving that into some results, which came on the last couple of games in Calgary, and we feel pretty good about where we're at, but there's still lots of work to do.
It sounds almost contrarian to say, Colin, but I think if you ask most hockey people, and that be yourself and coaches and people that help put together the team and the architects of the team, people that have been around hockey a long time, and you ask them, a 5-1 style game versus a more, like, use the phrase blue collar. And I think that very much applies. That kind of grinding, little more grit, little more physicality, a 3-2 style win. A lot of hockey people would be like, hell yeah, I want that 3-2 style team. And I want that 3-2 style win. Maybe a little more so than what we saw last year with a bit more of the speed, a bit more of the scoring. I mean, it's become obvious. The aesthetic, it just looks different, starting to look like a little different style play. Would you personally prefer that kind of grinding, gritty 3-2 win that we're starting to see more this year?
I mean, I'll take any win, Judd. To be honest, I don't care what the goals are, but yeah, I think so. I think you look in the playoffs and the teams that that typically go far in the playoffs are teams that are willing to play that style because the game changes a little bit in the playoffs. There's a lot less room on the ice. It feels like there's, it's tighter. Typically, as much as we can argue it shouldn't be, that it's called a little bit differently from an officiating standpoint, it's just sort of it's somewhat of a different game. And I think there's nothing wrong with playing those close games that are more tight checking, that are that goals are harder to come by. There's nothing wrong with those games because that ends up being a little bit of a playoff makeup of a team. So if you can play in a bunch of those in the regular season, then you're sort of battle tested for the playoffs.
And you made my point for me, and that's exactly why I think a lot of hockey people are fine with that in the regular season because of everything you just said and what we saw last year when the rubber hits the road in a lot of those playoff games. There are going to be one goal games. So if you're a little more tempered for that in the regular season, I think it can lend itself to what is hopefully a lengthy playoff run. Let's get to this, Colin. Last year, a lot of us forget. I mean, we saw so much Joey Daccord. We saw Joey Daccord play every minute of every playoff game. I believe it was 28 all told. But you did ultimately, over the course of the season, work with four different netminders who appeared, and that has been the case more overtly here in this season. You have worked with four different goalies, split between them. We've got 15 games for Chris Drieger. We'll see what happens with Philip Grubauer up in Seattle. Maybe we'll have Drieger back. We don't know. Who's to say? Ales Stejska has continued to impress and improve. He has played 10 games. Cale Morris has played 4 games. Jack LaFontaine, not exactly sure of his health status. He has appeared in 3 different games. Has that made your job harder in this season, working with 4 guys that have
Yeah,
really kind of split all that time?
yeah, no, like real lucky to just work with good guys. So I think the fortunate part and all that is that all of them are really easy to work with, and I've had seasons in the past where it's similar. Spent a year in Stockton and in Calgary system where we had 3 almost all year, and so you kind of just get used to, you know, to have the ability, I guess, to service all 3 guys, like to make sure that you're a service to all your goaltenders, and find the time to do it and get a little bit creative with scheduling and do those different things. And as far as the goalies themselves, I mean, like they're professionals, right? So they come to the rink ready to work and ready to compete, and typically, if you're not a good person, you're likely not in this stage of your hockey career anyway, having an opportunity to play for a team like Coachella Valley. And so they're obviously good people. So I would say no, like the job is not, overly challenging that way. I mean, obviously there's, you got to learn and know 4 different, goaltenders jobs instead of, 2, and know their style of play and their structure and everything else. But at the end of the day, like they're easy to work with, and I enjoy it. And that's part of the fun of the job is to, is to help them and work with them and, fine tune details, make those adjustments. And it's sort of the fun part of the job. So I'd be lying to say that I didn't like it. So, and like I said, we've been fortunate enough to have, 4 great guys, 4 great goalies, and get an opportunity to work with them has been good.
And the stats back that up. All 4 of those guys, for the most part, except for, kind of a clunker here or there, all 4 of those guys have availed themselves pretty damn well for the Firebirds this season. Ales Stejska, we've come to know him a little bit more. I mean, as it stands right now, we'll see what happens. It's been a season of shoots and ladders, a lot of ups and downs. Hopefully the Kraken kind of even things out health-wise, and we can kind of thereby even out our roster a little bit more. It seems to have quieted and quelled in recent weeks where there hasn't been as many transactions. I think that's going to serve the Firebirds well. But talk to us about Ales Stejska. We've seen what I
Yeah.
feel safe to say is a rapid improvement. And we can just go right back to that New Year's Day game against the first place Calgary team. Yeah, we got the 6 goals, and that's going to grab the headline. But he had himself another excellent game between the pipes. What have you seen for his progression over the course of the season?
Yeah, real good. I mean, I think his obviously the game in Tucson, they got 3 quick goals on us, and we took Stez out and put Kale in, and sometimes you do that to change momentum and whatever else. And it wasn't like they were bad goals. It was just, we need to do something to switch it up. But if you look, the four previous starts, that he's had, they've all been very, very good. And I think that what's hard to, to understand or to know, as a fan of the game or an outsider to understand is that Alice has been playing the last bunch of years in Europe in a game that's extremely different. Different sized rinks, different ways that teams attack. It's a different style, different structure, and it would be naive to think that he was just going to come in and hit the ground running. And I've worked with other goalies I worked with David Riddick when I was in Calgary. It's another guy from the Czech Republic, and it takes these guys a few months to get adjusted. There's some differences, and plays are on you quicker. Teams there possess the puck more and they don't throw as much to the net. There's not as much traffic in front of the net. You have more time to read plays just because of the way that they attack. And so I think there's some major structural differences in the game that have to be learned. And you're not going to get that doing, an NHL training camp and a couple preseason games. It takes real live reps, at this level. And I feel like he's become more and more comfortable. We've obviously worked on it in practice and identified it in video, and he's become a lot more comfortable, playing, a style and a structure that's going to enable him to have success here. But he had to make some changes, and changes don't come overnight. And so I've been real happy for him. I thought he was having his best game of the year against Ontario in the game that he got injured, and it was really unfortunate the way it happened. And he's out for 3 weeks, and he comes back from that, and it's almost like a little bit of a reset. So now we've got to get him back to where he was, before that happened. And I think he's done a remarkable job. And I think that, like, as you've pointed out, the improvement has been notable for sure.
And I was going to spare the fact that you did have to yank him in that one Tucson game late.
Yeah, it's part of the game, Judd. It's part of the game. It happens to the best of us, and the good thing is you can look at that a couple different ways. But we took him out, and then we played him the very next game, and he has his best game of the season, and which speaks to his mental toughness and his ability to bounce back. And he has a very good game. And like you said, the score was 6-1, but there was some breakaway stops when it was a 1-goal game, and there were some chances that they had when the score was a lot closer that he was able to keep the puck out of the net and give us an opportunity to get to our game and to find our offense, and then we did, and then obviously provided made to keep it that way.
Briefly, Cale Morris, we've seen him in 4 games. He had an unbelievable Firebirds debut, kind of a spot start, and he was very impressive. He's continued to basically play at a level not dissimilar. He's had 3 of his 4 games have been really good. Again, briefly on him, the skill set that you see from Cale Morris.
Yeah, Kale's a good goalie. He's a really good goalie, and I've known him for a while now. He was playing in Rockford for a friend of mine in the Chicago Blackhawks system, so I watched him there. And playing for another buddy of mine in the ECHL was his head coach, and it was during COVID. And I was back in Thunder Bay teaching, and I was kind of helping being a satellite goalie coach from afar. So I'm very familiar with Kale's game. He's an American League level goaltender that just found himself in the ECHL this year based on numbers. And so very capable, very simple game. I like how he plays. He doesn't chase the game at all. He's solid in the net and very good. He's a Mike Richter Award winner for the best goalie in college hockey when he was at Notre Dame. So this is a very good goaltender, and extremely capable at this level.
Speaking of decorated college hockey goalies, Jack LaFontaine, he was a Hobey Baker finalist. Well, at the University of Minnesota, I believe I described him to head coach Dan Bilesma in a different post-game presser as owning boyish enthusiasm. And I don't think Dan, in his very wry way, refused to ever repeat that phrase, but he's got something. He's an interesting guy. He seems to have a real buoyancy, a lot of energy. Again, I don't want to speak to a player's health. I'm not sure when he'll be back. What have you seen thus far out of Jack LaFontaine in his 3 games for the Birds?
Yeah, Jack. He's a very good goaltender. The guy made the jump from college hockey to the NHL in 1 year. So I mean, there obviously is some very good pedigree there, and you know, he's continued to refine his game year by year. He had a small sample size in the American Hockey League last year, who put up some sparkling numbers, and another capable guy, and very good, and you know, that's what I was saying before. I mean, the four goalies that I've had an opportunity to work with, you know, this year, they're all very, very good, talented goaltenders that find themselves in, you know, in a position where they've gotten an opportunity for one reason or another and are making the most of it. So, but yeah, Jack's enthusiastic. He has a great personality. He's a lot of fun to work with, and obviously he's played very well in the two full games that he's played for us. And you know, he's an American League level goaltender, just like Kale and just like Alish. And you know, they're guys that, you know, at any point in their career could see a steep rise in opportunity because they have the skill set. It's just a matter of, you know, getting an opportunity, and then, you know, and sometimes it's a bit of a numbers game, and so on and so forth with regards to, you know, team having room to play and whatever else. But you know, Jack and Kale are starting the year in the ECHL for the Kansas City Mavericks, could be starting the year in any American League organization playing for them, as they've demonstrated when they've gotten the opportunity.
Let's close out with this one. I kind of shortchanged you at the outset. I mean, the Masters of Education. I mean, you're a teacher, and we talked about this last year for a Firebirds Insider article. Between your goalie coaching and your goalie school, Giant Goaltending in Thunder Bay, I mean, you're teaching for the better part of a decade, if memory serves, before your full-time gig now with the Firebirds for the last couple of years. We talked about your uses and implementation of science and math. Those seem like the kind of sweet spots for how you implement that into your goalie teaching. What would you say about yourself, man, now that we've had some time between that conversation and this one? Are you more of a coach at heart or a teacher at heart, Colin?
Yeah, I think the two go hand in hand. Like for me, they're not far off from one another. I mean, obviously, like, you know, if the venue I get to teach / coach in happens to be a hockey arena, then I'm feeling pretty good about the opportunity that I have, obviously. And it's not to say that the classroom isn't a great place either, but obviously I'm passionate about hockey and I'm passionate about teaching, and I feel like coaching is kind of the sort of the synergy of the two. And so I feel real fortunate to get this opportunity and to do what I love. But I think I do bring a lot of what I've learned in education with me with regards to, you know, organization and how to present material, how to package material. And then, you know, beyond that, there's a lot of, you know, the ability to manage the dynamic of different personalities. And then how does that help you form, you know, quality relationships? And I think for me, that's the best part of the job is getting to know these goalies as people, and basically, you know, becoming to a point where years after I've finished coaching them, I would imagine that we'll still be in touch as a lot of my former goaltenders and I are. And I think that that's sort of, you know, the mark of you know, have you been impactful? And I think that you know, that way when I turn on a TV and I watch Joey Decord pitch a shutout in the Winter Classic, I can, you know, I know that you know, not only, you know, have we helped each other as, you know, with the coach to goalie relationship, but we've also had an impact on each other, you know, on a personal level, and it's fun to exchange a text or two after a game like that, and understand, you know, be reminded of what our time together meant to both of us. So I think that that's just one example. It happens sort of frequently, and I think that's sort of the best part of the job. So I think, and you get that in teaching too. I bump into former students in the grocery store in Thunder Bay, and Mr. Z, how you doing? And it's funny. I don't always remember every single name, but I remember their face, and that's a cool part of the job as well. So I think both those things, you know, I guess in a weird way, to go back to the word earlier, are kind of gratifying, right? To know that you kind of had an impact on not only what they were doing at the time, but on their life overall. So I think that's probably the best part of both jobs.
Colin Zulianello, thank you for teaching us something today. We'll look forward to seeing you and your students / charges in net this weekend, double dip against Abbotsford. Thanks for your time, Zuli. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me on, Judd. Take care.
All right, friends. It's going to wrap it up for this January 6, 2024 episode of the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. So appreciative of your time, your interest, your ears, your enthusiasm, and continued support for this endeavor. Someday I'll step back sometime in the near future. I don't know, maybe sometime next month. Give you a little look behind the curtain at some of the stats, but happy to say that the endeavor is going well. Fire and Ice podcast listeners around the country and around the world. So again, continued appreciation for all your interest in this endeavor. Further appreciation, of course, goes not only to this episode's guest, Colin Zulianello, goaltending coach for your CV Firebirds, but also and additionally the presenting sponsor of this program, Desert Willow Golf Resort. That's just about 3 miles away from Acrisure Arena. You can make it a great putt-to-puck day. Go tee up, play 18, play 36 at the Mountain View and Firecliff courses at Desert Willow, then skate it on over just down the way. Take Cook to Varner, over to a Birds game at Acrisure Arena. Get your tee times online for the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively, or check out the awesome and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy. They got everything going now here in the peak season, from daily clinics to excellent 3-day signature golf schools. You can find it all online at desertwillow.com. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Hope your respective 2024s are off to an excellent start. We will see you soon at the Birds Barn at Acrisure Arena. And until then, and always, remember, one valley, one team, rising together.